not able to play games last time. So it is true. I think 2-3 years ago, if we were to try to run some of these games on an integrated GPU, which is the GPU component that is on the same plane as our CPU, right? It would not be possible to play games. So even in fact, right now, if you look at this is also the Panther Lake CPU. Is actually running what we call the B390 GPU, integrated GPU card. So this is running on high settings, right? High settings, and this is actually what we call a benchmark mode. And so you can see it's running at around 35, maybe at most 40 frames per second. So actually, for a gamer, it's unacceptable. Actually, 30 to 40 frames is actually unacceptable. Right? No matter what George said, if you play game, you will know that this is unacceptable. I think the most you can accept, the least you can accept is like 60 frames per second. Now, but it's running smoothly, and because this is running on high, right? We ran this on high. If I were to put this to a medium or low, it would definitely be 60 to 70 frames per second, more than acceptable, right? But one of the things, so usually I think even AMD and NVIDIA, they provide certain tools, right? So some of the tools that they provide, as George has mentioned, is sampling tools, right? Sampling basically converts your HD image to 4K, right? And there's also what they call frame generation. So what he mentioned, frame generation basically is I just predict what the next frame is and I artificially create it. Basically, I cheat the system to make it like, oh, actually I have a lot of frames running at the same time, right? So it boosts up the FPS. But we have these two tools that works for our integrated GPU as well as our dedicated GPU, right? So now you see here, this is 30 frames per second. And I'll also try to show you this. One of your journalist friends was asking me this just now, right? And he say like, okay, how do we turn on this? How do we turn on this feature inside the game itself? So actually, this super sampling and all this test, you can actually turn it on outside the game or also inside the game. I will first show you how it's actually being done inside the game. So usually, Intel has been actually working very, very hard with a lot of the game developers. So it's just that EA is a big company, so it's easier for us to work with them. Battlefield and F1 are both EA games, right? And if you were to go to the video options, you can actually see, aside from the usual AMD and NVIDIA options, we actually make ourselves available also, right? In those options. And this is actually the frame generation. Just education, XE is actually our RAM GPU code name, right? XE, and FG is frame generation. So we are there as well together with them. So now with this turn on, I can actually show you. So the big difference is you can actually see the color and the LED. One is different, but I turn on HDR on this monitor. So this is running on full HDR, and this is a 120 FPS monitor. So when we ran it just now, there was no tearing, right? So if you know what tearing is, it's like the frame is splitting already. So far it has not happened with this system. Someone are always very itchy hand, right? You go and help me turn off the view. So it's running at around, it will float at around 100, but this is running on high. Again, like I said, if I turn this to ultra high, it will go back to 60 to 70 frames per second, which is acceptable for a high GPU. It's a high GPU, but yeah, that's the key thing. So someone asking me, why is there rain droplets on the screen? George was asking, okay, that's part of the game. It's nothing to do with the GPU. So one of the other things, I might as well show it because the other guest was asking. So because we started manufacturing GPUs, we started providing graphic software interface. with them in part of the development process. So what you can do is actually you can use the tool to override the game and to force the frame generation to happen or to force the sampling to happen. Because sometimes if the game doesn't make the option to detect and make the option available, then there's no choice also, but you can enforce it, right? So this is one way to enforce it. You can actually enforce the frame generation override. You can also turn on the what we call the VSync, which is frame synchronization, but a lot of it I can't talk. You can also try to virtually simulate responsiveness so that you don't have a latency issue between the game and the user. But the one that I really want to talk about is actually this functionality. So if you see what it says here, it says shared GPU, MPU memory override. And what it actually does is, it's not really overclocking. If you play games, you understand that. But what it does is, it enforces the memory, the system memory. So let's say this system actually has 64 GB memory. So actually, I can overload almost 60 GB of the memory over to the GPU side, so that if you're running a high resolution game, right, it affects frame rate less, it affects detail less. But if you're running a game where it's running on through like 8K or things like that, and you need more memory, you can actually override it. Or if you're running like the AI playground, right, you can also override it. Then it actually you share more memory on the GPU side. So this is one functionality that is actually available also. But yeah, that's it for game. What I have here, someone was also asking me, can this run older games? Yes, I have Watch Dogs 2 on yeah, all right. I have Watch Dogs 2 on the Omnibook X here. It does work, but because of the frame generation, so it will have, for example, so when a person dies, the ragdoll animation, maybe it doesn't happen very fluidly, right? But by far and large, the game runs, it will run at 120 FPS. So you can try on older games also. I'll turn on all three later with three different games. So that's it on this one, right? I want to move over here. Any other questions on the games? The user deleted it already. No, yeah. So the actually the other person was he was like he said he ran away already, but he was like playing with this lah, right? So I don't know how much did Pratik explain about AI Playground, right? So for your context, actually, AI Playground can do some of what AI Super Builder can do. AI Super Builder also can do some of what AI Playground can do, but they both have exclusive features to each other. AI Playground is, I think you are the one who asked the question, right? AI Playground is actually a very image generation, video generation centric tool, right? As they have demoed it to you just now. AI Super Builder is what you say is really everyday user can use it, but it's also it has a lot more functionalities that probably fit the enterprise user,
developer,
or not necessarily developer, office worker, right? Can use this a lot. But I'll first show you the functionality that an everyday user would use, right? So it can start very simple. So use it like your chat GPT, right? So basically this person was using it, going about it like a chat GPT, right? She said, I want to build a flight simulator app, and how do I go about it, But let's try with something simpler, right? And I'm really going wild here, okay? I don't know whether it will work, okay? Right? Yeah. And it's running offline, yeah, by the way. So it's purely running on the context that is within the model itself.
This one also has different LLM to download.
No
You can
need,
choose-
no need. Actually, I want to make one disclaimer, right? Like, I think George was trying his best to give you a context of what the tools are, but none of these tools require you to proactively go and find a model, download it, and load it into the system. I don't know whether it happened just now, but let's say if you were to open the tool over there, right, and you click, I want to generate this image. Yes, it needs to download the model, but the software has been developed maturely enough where it knows which models to download. It will tell you that it's downloading, and it will tell you that it's complete downloaded, right? So there's actually, you don't need to do any downloading. Yeah, so for example here, of course, when you first boot up the application for the first time, it needs to it uses an API system to call the licensing, right? It's a free license, but there is still a license that you need to use this system. So it needs a one-time online update in order to function properly, right? And if you go into the models, you can actually see. So you can see I haven't downloaded a lot of the models, right? When you first run the system for the first time, it will help you download the baseline model, which is an 8 billion model, right? And there's nothing you need to do to actually make it work. It will just say, oh, I need to download this model. Do you agree to download this model? Full stop. But also, like what George said, he said, you can run 7 to 8 billion model. But actually, on this system, on most of the laptops that we have here today, you can run a 30 billion parameter model, right? And I think the slide shows 70 billion. 70 billion, you can only run it on 64 GB RAM. For 32 GB RAM, this thing can run 30 billion safely, no issues, right? So here, I wouldn't say we will definitely know how to code bak chor mee, but okay, it can work for nonsense, right? Basically, like this kind of stuff that every day you use it for fun. But now let's go into a bit more serious topic. So like, let's say if you want to use it for work, whether you are a freelancer or whatever, okay, let's say you're a journalist, right? They keep asking me to provide use cases that are more relevant to you guys. So I said, okay, this was something that I tried and it worked, right? Previously, I took the YouTube Parliament, they are sparring each other, right? I go and put it in and have, hey, help me summarize what they are talking about, all the pointers. And say, hey, can you do maybe take the budget speech and all that? So actually inside here, I've already loaded the budget speech in PDF, right? You can actually see I have the annex C1. C1 is actually talking about the AI and the AI council and all that. But we can try something else. So here I actually have all the. Okay, give me 1 second to go online, right? To download it, just to demonstrate to you. We are doing this live for the first time, meaning I have not tried it with another budget speech document. So you guys are experiencing this with me for the first time actually. So let's go to a different annex, right? Let's go to resilient and skilled workforce. And then let's download the document. Okay, lower wage workers. So now the document is downloaded. So let's turn it off. Now we can upload the document. So generally this is how it works, right? So let's say you need to write up an article or whatever, and you need quick help to contextualize it. And it's not so much of contextualizing. Our human brain is also quite capable of just contextualizing this information. But let it summarize. So okay, quite fast, yeah. But the most important thing is, as you need to keep going back to the same document to get more context on what they're talking about and certain details, you can actually go back to this, right, and answer something like yeah. So let's use this, right? If more details on PWCS. So it will know because it has actually digested the document. It should know what is PWCS, and it can actually give you more information. And if you say anything like, for example, right, is that supposed to be 15% or 20%? So you can actually ask it something like that, right? Like, hey, what was the budget relief. Was it 15% or 20%? And it should be able to help you. Yeah, it can even tell you specifically which page that is actually referring to this information, right? So for your work, to do research for writing certain articles or things like that, things like this would be very useful as well. Now, these are all offline. If you are more comfortable, you want to take it one step further, you want to go online, right? You can actually push this tool to do even more complex things. So can I just ask, right? Because I don't know what media are you guys in. Are you guys familiar? Some people they say AI agents or agentic AI. Okay, so this thing can do that as well, right? This tool. So, but I don't want to bore you with very complex examples. So I'll give you two examples today, right? In here, actually, there's a travel agent tool that I built using the system. So if I go into the back end, you will be able to see it. That actually, I have a lot of engines running in the back end, and all these are actually what we call as agents, right? And there are two agents. There are two tools running, right? Hotel and flight. So actually, they behave like a travel agent. It's actually calling into Google Flights and Google Hotel to actually help me find the right flight and hotel details. Actually, one of the examples that I put here, we can actually try that, right? We're doing this for the first time also. So none of this is rehearsed. And one of the things about AI agent is, it wouldn't work, sorry, because I haven't turned it online. So you will see this fail for sure. Let's see what happens, right? It won't be able to call. See? Yeah, so it cannot connect to the internet, right? So at least now you know it's really safe when it's not offline, nothing will work, right? All your data is insulated on your PC. So actually, if you see here, what now would be a good segue. If you see a spike in the GPU, so it's actually running on the internal system on the iGPU itself, right? That's what makes all of this possible. So now, why is the okay? Now it's connected. We can try to run this again. Good thing is there's always a repeat button. So the local PC and the local GPU, what it's actually doing is it's actually contextualizing your question, right? And it's actually strategizing, okay, what should I do? Then it knows that, okay, I have a Google flight and I have a Google hotel tool that I can actually use to my advantage, right? So let's divide and conquer what tasks we need to do. So you'll know, okay, let's first search for flights, Singapore to Osaka, right? And search for hotels for this time frame that I've given it. Okay, I can, and it can give you options, right? So, okay, there's Scoot, there's Peach. You can actually take it one step further, if I'm not wrong, and tell it what is the flight class that you want, what is the airline that you want, what budget you have, and it can also come up with those same criteria for you. We'll let this load. I will show you an example because I need to show. Sorry, I need to let it load finish first before I. Just now I showed them an example where for work, this person based in Seattle needs to travel. She got appointment. So that example is not even details. We just throw in the email and say I need to fly for these meetings, right, in the email. All I gave it was don't break the $6,000 budget, and they help us find the hotel and the flights combined together is within the budget. Yeah, so very quickly, it can tell you what different hotels you can go to, what different flights you can go for. And if I were to show you, I think there's a past example here where, yeah. So this one is like, we just give it a bunch of email, right? And I say, hey, please check the schedule, then book the round trip flight, right? So this is one example of what you can do if you are comfortable with going online, right, with the tool. Now, there's another sample use case that we put here, which is creating PowerPoint slides. Actually, you can use these things to create PowerPoint slides as well. Of course, when we say agentic AI, right, meaning part of it we do offline, part of it we do online. So for a lot of PowerPoint creation, it's also very dependent on the PowerPoint tool provider online, because we are using online services to do this as well. So sometimes it comes out very beautifully. Sometimes you need a lot more work to actually improve it, right? So let's say I start a new one, and I actually have a tool in here, right? A PDF in here. It's just an article about AI, right? Very simple, boring stuff, all text-based. And what I can do is, I can actually include the document as part of the material. And then so I'll just say summarize the document, then create the PPT, right? And open the PPT on the browser. So this one is actually using an online service via an API call. So it's not fully done offline, right? The tool calling and the initial contextualization, we call it contextualization, is all done offline using the GPU, right? So you see, as it summarizes the document, as it decides what to do and what agent to use, it's using the internal GPU. But once it goes online and creating the PPT, it will be up to the online tool to decide, right? But one thing I just want to ask, right? Did you notice I didn't switch the agents just now? I actually turned them all on, and the tool itself is actually deciding which agent to use to accomplish what I want it to accomplish, right? So that's also part of the beauty about AI agents, right? While this is loading, yeah. So actually, this is one of the one I demoed for them. It will create a PPT, and it needs a lot of brushing. This specific one is called ChatGPT. There's other PPT tools as well, but those some require money, some they give you free tokens, right? This one is completely free. That's why I use this one. Yeah. But yes, you can create PowerPoint. Actually, the basic tool itself for layman users.
Hello everyone. Can I just take 1 minute of your time? So